This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Schola in the new Full Battle Rattle studios.
Okay, so we are here near UNLV's campus, the home of the Runnin' Rebels. We take your state motto so seriously, all for country.
Some big endorsements doled out from Governor Sarah Palin this past week, including one in the race for Nevada Senate. Palin is backing Danny Tarkanian. Today, Mr. Tarkanian joins us, a Trump Republican who will dump Obamacare. We'll get the thoughts from this husband, father, and businessman on Trump, Palin, his opponent, what issues are important, and we'll ask about his legendary dad. Danny Tarkanian is coming up. Plus, we'll have the latest national and Alaska headlines in Sarah Palin news. We'll visit the Crow's Nest with Tanya Crow in California, and a brand new installment of Liberty and Legacy with Tamara Colbert coming up from Texas. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio, available at mamagrizzlyradio.com and now available at sarahpalin.com by clicking the More tab. The Palin Update is sponsored by Full Battle Rattle. Full Battle Rattle, helping veterans suffering from combat-related disabilities through the healing power of music. Learn more at facebook.com/fullbattlerattle, ABQ. He is Palin-powered as he looks to head to Washington and give President Trump some reinforcement. Danny Tarkanian picked up a Sarah Palin endorsement this past week as he runs for U.S. Senate in Nevada. And today, he's our special guest. And now we do welcome Danny Tarkanian to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Sir, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate you being here. And first of all, congratulations. Huge endorsement. Sarah Palin backing your candidacy for your run for the U.S. Senate. What did you think when you got the word that the governor was behind you?
Oh, we're really, really excited. I have a lot of respect for the whole Palin family. We've known them for almost a decade now, and I've watched what Sarah went through when, well, first of all, the accomplishment of being a VP candidate, and then what she went through by the left media just trying to destroy her because they were so threatened by her. And I just respect her the way that she handles everything and has stayed in the game and keeps making a difference for people like me running for public office.
Now, folks who may not know you, I think the governor did a good job in bullet pointing things and explaining exactly why she's behind you and why you are the best choice. I love the term conservative outsider who will support the America First policies our nation needs to survive and thrive. So I think that really sums you up from a generic standpoint. We want to get into specifics, of course, but, you know, a lot of this really speaks about the president. And, you know, you're labeling yourself a Trump Republican. It's amazing that we actually have to do that right now, but that's what we're up against. You know, we have a party here on one side full of left-wingers who are always together on almost everything, and then a Republican Party that we really do have to start labeling. So we appreciate that you know, you're not hiding from President Trump, you're embracing President Trump.
Well, sure. I mean, as most people out there, particularly the GOP part of the country, understand that we got a great opportunity here. We have a person in the White House who has the courage and conviction to make some great changes in Washington, D.C., and, as he says, drain the swamp, or whatever you want to call it, bringing it back to the people. It's a shame that we have a lot of people that are in office right now that just won't support our president. And the guy I'm running against, Dean Heller, he was one of the first never-Trumpers in the campaign last year. For 4 months, he went out and just ripped President Trump and said how he would never support him and never vote for him under any circumstances. And then when he had the chance to repeal Obamacare, which is so important to so many people in our country, Dean Heller had the pressure from the mainstream media not to vote for it. He buckled under the pressure and really stabbed the president in the back.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that, and you know, unfortunately, this is a phrase I've used a lot since Barack Obama was in office, and since we've done this program. You know, shocking but not surprising. That was my take on the Heller vote on Obamacare. Did you feel the same way on that?
Well, I was shocked. I mean, I'm stunned. I am surprised. I'm stunned that Dean Heller would do that. Look, he voted for the repeal just 2 years earlier when President Obama was going to veto it. I mean, it's the worst part of hypocrisy to then vote 2 years later against the repeal when you know you're going to finally get it passed by President Trump signing it. I just thought it was outrageous, and I was stunned that he did it.
You know, when you get a Palin endorsement, and we've talked about this on this program with many people over the years, it's different than others. You know, a lot of people go and they endorse you because they're told to, or it's a party line thing, or it's a who the heck else am I going to support kind of feeling. But, you know, with Governor Palin, you know, she always goes with who she really believes is the best, whether they have a chance, whether they're going to win an old cakewalk, whether they have no chance. She will always endorse the best candidate. And you see that she doesn't even always follow with President Trump, where, you know, you're the pick in Nevada, but then in another state she's going a different way. So from the president. So I think that when you get a Palin endorsement, there's a lot of truth behind it, and you know that it's very genuine.
Absolutely, and it's not just if you were the best candidate. You know, she doesn't just pick the one that has the best chance of winning. She picks the candidate that she feels is the strongest conservative, who will stand by their convictions and not buckle under the pressure of the mainstream media. And I'm very honored to have her endorsement.
Now, something that involves your area of the country and obviously the entire country, but making headlines in recent days, the president, the pardoning of Sheriff Joe Arpaio, a man who's been on this program, who happens to share a birthday with President Trump, both born on Flag Day, which I think is apropos. But what were your thoughts on Arpaio and the pardon? And, you know, I mean, this is a guy who's committed his life to public service, and he's up there in age now. And then, you know, people had this, I thought, a witch hunt after him. And it seems like the president made the right move.
Yeah, I was very supportive of the president's decision. And as you mentioned, not only the witch hunt, and many people think it was politically motivated where they went after him, but the man served 50 years of working to try to keep criminals off the street. And he's 85 years old. And it just is amazing that our country would want to go after him so badly and be so upset when President Trump made this pardon, when President Obama pardoned over 3,000 drug dealers and users and other criminals, and they thought that was okay.
We talked about Obamacare and clear where you stand there. What else could we expect from Senator Tarkanian as opposed to a Heller if elected? What are the issues that you know that you're putting out there on the top of the list, and also what are you hearing from potential voters?
Well, one big difference between myself and Senator Heller is he was on the television. It was actually a town hall, but they recorded him saying that he wanted to protect the funding of Planned Parenthood. And I just don't see how, he calls himself pro-life, how anybody pro-life would say, yeah, we're going to give $500 million in taxpayer money to an organization like Planned Parenthood, who performs millions of abortions a year, and then also has a political action committee that spends hundreds of thousands, if sometimes millions of dollars a campaign trying to defeat conservative Republicans. It's outrageous to say you're going to protect their funding. And Dean Heller said he would, and I certainly won't. That's a big difference. Dean Heller was part of the Gang of Eight that wanted to that proposed granting citizenship to illegal immigrants. I certainly wouldn't vote to grant citizenship to people that have come into the country illegally.
You know, we have an opportunity here to send some reinforcements to help the president out. I mean, it's a very ambitious and a really a great agenda trying to make America great again. But, you know, when you're stonewalled by your own party, and like you said, guys who said one thing for 7-8 years and now have turned their back over, whether it be spite, whether it be poll numbers in their own state, whether it be bad advice from handlers. The bad news is that we need to get guys in here when we're not even up to a midterm. But the good news is that with you and in other states, we do have that chance to get in and, you know, help the president here still in 2017.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of the America First policies the president is trying to pass, and I only mentioned a couple of them, but you go down the list of protecting the borders with the wall and other technology to do so. You know, getting NATO to pay their fair share. You know, I was so much in favor of that when it came out on the campaign trail by then candidate Trump, and he was ridiculed at the time. But who would be against that if you really understand what's happening there? I'll support President Trump's America First policies. Dean Heller has shown he won't, and it's a simple call. Dean Heller will lose a Republican. He will lose a general election here in Nevada because the Republican Party will not vote for him. The base will not vote for him because he doesn't support the president. I will, and I will support the president, and I'll win a general election.
Like we said earlier, we really like how Governor Palin described you, a conservative outsider. You're also a successful businessman. And, if we put those terms out there without the name, some people may think we were talking about Donald Trump, not just Danny Tarkanian, same initials.
Well, yeah, and my middle initial's J too, so I'm DJT. So we got a lot in common.
That's a good omen.
He has a little bit more money than I do, though.
Well, and most of us, right? That's a great omen. That's a great. I like that DJT too, right?
Yeah.
You've been out there answering questions. I know you've been all over the place and talking to people. And what is it when people come up to you? Are they feeling the frustration too? Because so many gave up years ago, feeling they didn't have a chance, and then there was a rejuvenation with the fact that Trump had a chance to win, and then wound up winning, and then he finally gets in, and like we see, it's GOP people who are standing in his way. So are people expressing to you that frustration?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the reason I got in this race was because I was getting calls, emails, social media requests from hundreds of people saying, you got to go in and beat Dean Heller. We need somebody in there that's going to support President Trump's agenda. I keep hearing all the time, we're sick and tired of politicians who say one thing when they run for office and do the opposite once they're elected. Dean Heller's a poster boy of that type of a politician. And people that know me know that I stand for my convictions. I fight for them. And if I'm fortunate enough to get elected, I believe I have the persuasion skills to get those convictions passed.
You are the son of the great basketball coach, Jerry Tarkanian, and I have to talk to you about your dad before we let you go. I'm sure you miss him greatly. I know people who never met him personally who miss him greatly. I mean, he was just, not just from the character standpoint, but just what a great man on and off the court. I remember watching those Nevada-Las Vegas teams as a kid, and I mean, you didn't get much better than those running Rebels. So I want to ask you, what was that like for you at the time? And you were a young man at the time. What was that like for you as your dad was coaching those amazing teams?
Well, it was a great thrill to experience all those things. We just didn't realize how great it was when we were going through it and how at some point they were going to end. My dad was a great coach, but he was a better person. He had great people skills. His best time he would have was to go to a bar, have drinks, and talk basketball and tell stories to people, and they loved it. Let me tell a quick story with my dad. He made a career out of taking junior college transfers and bringing them into his 4-year program and winning really big with them. When he found out that Sarah Palin went to a junior college in Idaho before she went to university, he said he was so excited when she was the VP candidate. He said she could be the first JUCO transfer to make it to the White House, and he just loved that line.
That's amazing. I love that. That is great. Yeah. That is great. What about the players that he had? I mean, you look at Greg Anthony, who's dabbled a little bit in politics, but Larry Johnson, I guess, had the best pro career. But I mean, what do you remember about those guys? And as you as a young man there watching it from afar, was it just great memories all around?
Great memories, and they were really great people. My dad always said Larry Johnson was a better person than he was a basketball player, and he's the best basketball player in the country when he was playing at UNLV. Stacey Ogman's a great guy, hardly ever talks, but he's such a great guy, a loyal guy. Our players, we had great pride in being a rebel. It was great pride to be a rebel, and they worked very, very hard to make sure they held the high standards that previous teams had.
Hey, Calvin Coolidge didn't talk a lot either, so, silent Stacey, that's okay. Quiet Stacey. Well, that is great to hear. And your dad, speculated, of course, but, few knew him better than you. What do you think he would think of President Trump?
He'd love President Trump because my dad hated phonies. My dad's biggest line was, you can teach a dishonest person to be honest. You could teach a thief not to steal. You can't teach a dishonest person to be honest. He hated phonies more than anything, and Donald Trump tells it like it is, and he would love somebody that would tell it like it is.
That's amazing. Well, we appreciate what you're doing, Danny, and we wish you the best. We're rooting for you. We're praying for you.
If anybody wants to help our campaign, obviously running against an incumbent senator makes it very difficult raising money and getting out your message. If anybody wants to help our campaign, go to our website at tarknv.com. And if anybody really wants to see how my opponent felt about Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was running for presidency last election, you can go to neverheller.com and see the comments that he made, which were outrageous against the GOP nominee at that time.
And remind everyone, too, Danny, the date of the vote.
Well, it's going to be the second week of June here in Nevada. So it's going to be a long time from now, but it's going to be a very, very intense and exciting race.
Yeah, you got a ways to go, and that's good in some ways because you can get that message out, expose what you're up against, and also get some help not only in your great state but from across the nation.
Yeah, this is a national race. It has to be, and we're getting a lot of help so far nationally. We've already received over 700 different contributions from people outside the state of Nevada. We're very excited about the support we're getting, and it's like for Sarah, getting the endorsement by the Governor Palin is only going to make it that much better for us.
Well, we are rooting for you. We're praying for you, and we really appreciate you being with us. We hope we could talk to you again before June, and please call on us anytime, and all the best to you and your campaign and your family.
Thank you. Thank you again, and thank the governor.
For more on conservative outsider Danny Tarkanian, please visit tarknv.com. That's TARKNV.com. And to see the man he's up against, try neverheller.com. Now it's time for Sarah Palin news, headlines, and more about Governor Palin. Finally, closure for families of these 700 heroes lost in battle. Let us never forget the sacrifices of the greatest generation. Ganging up on a vet is not a good idea. These guys fought for the very freedom that allows you to protest. Another day, another truckload of bad news for Democrats. George Foreman with a knockout of Kaepernick and Company. Defund evil Planned Parenthood. The conservative Hollywood icon speaks. Happy belated birthday wishes to Representative Gowdy. Sarah Palin's words here. My, how far you've fallen, GOP. Now fighting over who gets credit for increasing debt while still blindly spending money we don't have. Sad. We echo the governor's sentiments. The creator's heart displayed in front of his beautiful Colorado creation. A father lifts his son high in the air during the recent Colorado Springs Down Syndrome Association's annual Buddy Walk in support of his little friend, Nora Hope. More from Sarah Palin now, quote, another issue illustrating capitulation. We should not have ceded the issue of automatically raising debt ceiling to big government spenders. Where's debate on the fundamental fiscal issue we face? We are bankrupt. We're nowhere close to the promised balanced budget. We're borrowing money from other nations to give to other nations and still printing money out of thin air, unquote. Proud to stand with these great conservative candidates, Danny Tarkanian and Judge Roy Moore for U.S. Senate. That from Governor Palin as well. And a big thank you to Governor Palin for featuring my story this week on Anthony Chaffee of the Oakland Raiders and his amazing work with Special Olympic athletes. To read about all of these stories, you can visit the Mama Grizzly Radio Facebook page. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety and to read her devotionals, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page. Follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA, and don't miss the new sarahpalin.com. Now let's head to the crow's nest. Here's Tanya Crow.
Thanks, Kevin. I've never done this before, but I really want to share the article that had a major impact on me that I read recently that was so clear and insightful and profound in its expression of having support for Trump and his agenda. So here we go. David Limbaugh, August 26, 2017, The Daily Wire. Trump movement transcends Trump. Do you equal opportunity Trump haters ever listen to yourselves? You sometimes remind me of the people in those movies who live the same day over and over. You must wake up every day wholly oblivious to your behavior the day before, gleefully imagining how you could dismantle Trump with a single tweet, a doleful column, or a brief television critique. Even if your criticisms sound new to you, most of us were here yesterday. And during the days, weeks, and months leading up to yesterday, what you are offering is not profound. Sometimes the absurdity reaches comical proportions. You figuratively subject Trump to rapid machine gun fire every day and then lay your weapons down, walk over to the camera, and castigate Trump for bleeding. Yes, some of Trump's abrasions are self-inflicted, but anyone under ceaseless fire like him would be hard-pressed not to overreact from time to time. The news media, almost all on the left and too many on the right, make every news cycle about Trump. It's not about North Koreans, nuclear weapons, Afghanistan, immigration, healthcare, or radical Islam. It's about Trump. Every story is centered on him. And don't tell me this is only because Trump makes everything about himself. Oh yes, he personalizes things, but we're not talking about him. We're talking about you. You make it about him and about yourselves and your moral superiority for condemning him as a Neanderthal every 5 minutes. We get it. Republican Trump supporters disgrace themselves. After all, according to many of you, Trump would have no support among conservative commentators and media figures if they listened to their consciences. No, they've all sold out. Apparently, I can't be a constitutional conservative and support Trump, so I must be doing it for ratings on a show I don't have or Twitter likes, though I've yet to figure out how to monetize my betrayal. But enough about me. How about people who do have shows and make their living through commentary? Well, I know a lot of them personally, and I don't know any who support Trump because they think it will enhance their ratings. It's not that they don't try to get ratings, but they don't support Trump as a means to that end. Go ahead and laugh, but your automatic assumption that such conservative support for Trump must be political prostitution possibly reflects a hint of narrow arrogance. Trump is so manifestly egregious, there could be no logical reason a bona fide conservative could support him, right? Let me respectfully suggest that Trump hasn't changed in office. He is the same person we saw on the campaign trail and the same person the American people elected as their 45th president. He was every bit as brash, unfiltered, and unorthodox as he is now. So the next time you rush to your computer or microphone to declare his instability or unfitness for office, remember that the American people knowingly elected him as just that guy. Therefore, when you are impugning him, you might as well be, and often are, impugning them. Now let me further shock you. They didn't elect Trump because they thought he was some perfect cult hero. Yes, there are some Trump supporters who appear to be cult-like in their support, but I dare say that even most of them view Trump less as someone who is perfect and more as one who is in the foxhole with them, trying to fight the forces determined to dismantle America as founded, piece by piece. I acknowledge Trump's uniqueness and that he may have been the only one who could have satisfied the grassroots in 2016, but I think the Trump movement transcends Trump. It preceded him, but coalesced in him and will survive him. You want to eradicate the Trump movement by removing Trump, assuming that's your end game. You explain that Trump's peculiar mix of policy hodgepodge under the Republican banner is destroying the conservative and Republican brands. I used to be more sympathetic to that argument, but the problem is that Republicans have not been able, and often haven't seemed willing, to fight back against this leftist juggernaut that represents an existential threat to all we hold sacred. So many of them would have haughtily scoffed at the mere suggestion that we face existential threats in that context. Conceding that Trump is no conservative ideologue by any stretch and still clinging to my self-identification as a Reagan and Ted Cruz conservative, I think we have a far better chance of thwarting the leftist agenda and recapturing lost territory under someone like Trump, as opposed to some well-mannered, leftist appeasing centrist who is willing and determined to fight. You can be sure that the calculating left will be just as militant, no matter who is in power. In fact, if members of some sordid bipartisan coalition are able to claim Trump's political scalp based on the stuff they're now throwing against the wall against him, there's no telling how emboldened the left will become. If you can live with that, it might be time for you to quit moralizing to us. You might be deluding yourself if you think Trump will implode. You can read the polls and think he's finished or conclude that the latest tweet storm is the final nail, but you will be wrong. Some of you should quit worrying so much about conflating ideologies. The rise of so-called populist nationalism would have far less traction if the right showed much greater solidarity in standing up for the American idea, which is not about ethnicity, race, gender, or diversity, but about liberty, equal opportunity, a strong and unashamed America, and the rule of law. Advocating all of these noble principles, in theory alone, will no longer be sufficient. We must get in the fight. I love pure constitutional conservatism, perhaps as much as anyone, but way too many people who don't love it are pretending they do and using Trump as a scapegoat to cover for their failure to fight for the principles and policies they profess to champion. I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't legitimately criticize Trump when he deserves it or that you abandon your principles, but please take your blinders off and get off your high horse. If those of you who can't quit salivating over your next Trump dump would spend just a fourth of that time registering outrage over the stuff regularly spewing from the left, including the mainstream media, maybe you would do your part in helping to close the void that was filled by Donald Trump. Until our side recognizes the gravity of our situation and unifies to fight against the left with the same commitment the left brings to this fight, you can be sure that at least a strong plurality of the political right will continue to rally around unorthodox figures who at least have the brass to fight back. This is Tanya Crow with Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tanya Crow on Mama Grizzly Radio. More from the Crow's Nest next week.
Now, the Palin Update with Kevin Scholla presents Liberty and Legacy. Here's Tamara Colbert.
Conservatives over the past 8 years highlighted examples of failed leadership in the Obama administration, and yet here we have a major failure of leadership in Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. It is time for Senator McConnell to pack his bags and go back to Kentucky so the people can have a Senate Majority Leader who actually knows how to lead. The arrogance of McConnell has become a reoccurring theme and glaring blight on the GOP since Trump was elected. And we know really it started before then, but it's really had a spotlight since November 8th, 2016. Let's just recite his lack of efforts to repeal Obamacare, blasting Trump for, quote, excessive expectations. Yes, it's true. I can't make this up. To the most recent town hall reveal where Trump had zero chance we won't raise the debt ceiling. McConnell began to get under my skin in earnest at his presser on the morning of November 9th, 2016, where he gleefully stated the repeal of the 2010 Affordable Care Act as a, quote, item pretty high on our agenda, end quote, and then couldn't lead his own party in the Senate to fulfill a major campaign promise that they have all campaigned on since 2010. And in that same press conference, McConnell smartly dismissed the idea of term limits legislation, admonishing the new president, saying, we have term limits now, they're called elections, end quote. More than 2/3 of Americans polled say term limits are a top priority. Trump specifically brought that out in many speeches during the campaign. Decades of failure in Washington and decades of special interest dealing must come to an end, says Trump over and over again. Support for term limits by Trump is a welcome notion for you and me, for the majority of Americans who are just simply disgusted with the status quo in D.C. But the hubris by McConnell is so unbecoming of his 3 decades in office. Wake up, Kentucky. Let's see failure to secure a straight Obamacare repeal vote in the Senate, his obstinacy toward a vote on term limits legislation, and now McConnell is blaming, quote, excessive expectations by the president as to why the do-nothing Congress hasn't actually gotten anything done. The American people don't expect much these days from their elected officials. Note to legislators, at the minimum, keeping an election promise that you have campaigned on for almost 8 years and fundraised millions on for 2 election cycles, Senator McConnell, repealing Obamacare is kind of important to the American people. But what's really funny is that McConnell's beef was that the timetables for accomplishing Trump's agenda were, quote, unrealistic with the way that business is conducted on Capitol Hill. McConnell is the poster child for big talk and little action. Our new president, of course, has not been in this line of work before, is what McConnell told a group in Florence, Kentucky at a Rotary Club luncheon in August of this year. Quote, I think President Trump had excessive expectations about how quickly things can happen in the democratic process. Quote, part of the reason I think people feel we're underperforming in the Congress is because too many artificial deadlines unrelated to the reality of the complexity of legislating may not have been fully understood, end quote. Maddening, right? McConnell must be a really slow learner because 8 years under Obama couldn't possibly have been enough time for him to come up with any ideas, thoughts, or even a strategy about what the Republicans might do when they had all 3 branches of government. By the way, thanks to you and me. McConnell is only purposeful when it benefits him. With another example, includes him not officially declaring the Senate recessed for the summer break, so Trump was unable to get the rest of his appointees confirmed, because if they went on recess, Trump can automatically, as the president, confirm the appointees that the Senate has been slow to confirm. The Democrats might be so evil they sell out their own family members for power and money, but they would never, ever sabotage their controlling all 3 branches of government and any opportunity to work together to fundamentally transform America into a third world banana republic. If I lived in Kentucky, I would be leading a recall McConnell effort for his remarks that Congress will raise the debt ceiling. Just so smug and matter of fact, again, without a caveat that Congress is also going to finish a plan to balance the budget, stop the excessive spending, eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, and seek additional ideas to cut the deficit across the federal government, not add to it. Somewhat murky is how McConnell described the ongoing Obamacare repeal discussions. I'd say, Kentucky, it's time for him to see his future on Capitol Hill as equally murky. I realize that 90% of incumbents win their re-election races, but Senator McConnell's approval rating is at an all-time low, the lowest, as a matter of fact, in the entire Congress, with an approval rating of 18%. Wake up, Kentucky. It is time to find your next Rand Paul and maybe work to recall Senator McConnell now so that you don't have to wait till 2020 for him to be up for re-election. I don't know about you, but I believe that change is really in the air between the Republicans in name only and the Democrats who are doing everything to obstruct the president and ruin any chance of governing and getting the business of the people accomplished. It's time for all of them to go. It's time for you and I to make tough decisions, to not accept the status quo any longer. This is why I'm working with the Convention of States project that I love, because every day is an opportunity to understand why I don't have to be frustrated with Washington, because I'm working on a solution that's bigger than the problem of DC. And I can't wait, because it isn't if, folks, it's when. You can join me right now at conventionofstates.com. Sign up wherever you are. We are working diligently in our states to educate the people and educate legislators. And this next legislative session is not an excuse to not pass the Convention of States, because the truth is, it doesn't matter who's in power, because the bureaucracy, the unelected, and this evil, deep state is running our federal government. It's time to put the people back in charge. And you and I have a constitutional right under Article 5 to do that. Tweet me with your thoughts this week at Tamara Colbert, hashtag Mama Grizz Radio. I can't wait to hear from you. Don't be discouraged. Channel your energy into finding a candidate you like and respect and who can replace the Republican in name only and join the Convention of States project. It's time to be hope-filled, not hopeless. I'm Tamara Colbert from Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tamara Colbert in Texas. Tune in for more Liberty and Legacy next week. And to learn about Convention of States, head to conventionofstates.com. The Palin Update, including Liberty and Legacy, and The Crow's Nest is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also available at sarahpalin.com by clicking the More tab. Like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Tamara Colbert, at Tanya Yoga 13, and at FBR ABQ. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Just go to breitbart.com/columnists/Kevin-Scholla. I'm also contributing to sarahpalin.com. Please check out my latest piece this week on Anthony Chaffee. Visit sarahpalin.com/author/Kevin-Scholla. Honored to be working on the governor's new site. I want to thank Tamara Colbert, Tanya Crow, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Danny Tarkanian, and thank you for listening today. A special thank you to our sponsor, Full Battle Rattle. Visit facebook.com/Full Battle Rattle ABQ. The Palin Update is produced by Lena Anderson, the Andy L. Kramer, and Lori Ann Lewis. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update right here on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.